Deathgasm. All spelt in capitals. Lowercases for pussies.
Cool. What about...
I fucking said...
Welcome to Second Class Cinema, the show where we watch a B-movie and immediately discuss. I'm Tom. I'm here with Eric and Brittany.
Hi.
I'm Brittany. Hello.
You're Brittany. Hello.
I'm Eric.
Yeah, Eric, you sound like you're in a death metal
I'm
band.
having a deathgasm.
Whoa! I think that's a great segue into what we watched tonight, which...
Wait, what did we watch tonight?
We watched 2015's horror comedy from New Zealand, Deathgasm.
Deathgasm.
Yes, we did. And it was Brittany's pick.
It was.
If, you know,
You
finally
couldn't
made it back
tell
around.
by the fact that it was a horror comedy.
Yeah, right? If there's a
You've never
telling
picked
sign.
one of those before.
This was a little different than the normal ones, though, I must say.
It was very gory.
It was. So wait, let's back up the train here. Why did we pick it?
The most simple and frequent reason is that I saw the trailer on YouTube and was like, that looks awesome or terrible.
Yeah.
And I waited and waited and waited for it to come out, and it just was seemingly nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I searched on demand, and it appeared one day.
Yeah, we rented it on Amazon for $8.
$6.99 HD for 2 days.
Okay.
Or you can buy it for $10,
That's not bad.
which we probably should have done.
We should have bought it.
But we were like, we don't know what we're getting into.
I know, I talked us out of it. That was my bad. I'll take responsibility. Okay, so that's why. So what's Deathgasm about?
It is about a teenage metalhead named Brodie who moves in with his super religious aunt, uncle, cousin who are all dickheads. He starts a metal band with some of his friends. They discover pages from... It's like an ancient text.
Yeah.
It's like a demonic song called The Black Hymn, and basically if you play it, a demon named Aeloth comes and everyone turns into disgusting eyeless demon freaks. And that's what happens.
Yeah, and it's up to them to send this demon back to hell.
Obviously, him and his metal band friends and his love interest, Medina,
Yeah.
who is a preppy blonde girl who is slowly becoming a metalhead.
Which is a funky, cold, preppy girl. Sorry, I've been meaning to do that for about 40 minutes.
You know, I've been thinking of a way to say like, oh, well, her name's Medina. You know what? Forget it. But no, I'm glad someone thought of something good.
Okay, you clowns, cut the crap.
Yeah, so I guess let's dive into successes.
Sure.
Are we ready?
I was born ready
You were born ready?
to discuss death. Yes.
I was born to be wild.
Different band, dude. Different band.
Rock me like a hurricane.
Success. I'm going to throw out a real quick one. I like how the movie's called Deathgasm after the band that they made that was the troupe of people that had to fight the demon.
Yes.
Simple concept. Really liked it.
Yeah. That's an awesome band name as well. So,
Also true.
although I think Deathgasm, the band, had no A in
It
death.
was, yeah,
Like
D-E-T-H,
death.
gasm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Megadeth. Speaking of which, the music in this movie was obviously great.
Yeah, for any sort of metal fan, I think this does total fan service for people who love metal.
Yeah, and I don't even like metal that much. I mean, there's maybe like 3 metal bands that I really like, but I like the spirit of metal. I respect it and I appreciate it.
I do too.
So yeah, that was a huge selling point.
Yeah, I like how this really nails the difference between like the intensity of metal and the nerdiness of metal.
Yeah.
And it like kind of it hits both sides of it and in between, and it feels really good.
Yeah, it's an accessible metal for all the people who might be intimidated by it. And also on top of that, so Brodie's like denim jacket's got a bunch of patches on it. He had a Guar patch. He had a Cannibal Corpse patch. He had like anal cunt CDs. So
Trivium.
Trivium. Oh, he's a big fan of Trivium posters.
Cattle decapitation.
Yeah, all these great bands. All these great metal bands that...
All these names of bands, I only know 3 people who I know that listen to metal. I have no idea what their music sounds like.
It sounds
Like metal.
like death metal.
I mean, it's nice to see a movie when a movie has a specific like mind, like when it has a specific, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it has a specific genre in mind. I guess that's the best way I can
Like
describe
kind of marketing itself to a very specific
Yeah.
subgroup
Like
of
a niche.
people.
It's nice when it feels legitimate. Like it doesn't feel like it's just co-opting something.
Yeah.
Which is, I think we discussed this in Revenge of the Ninja last week. That movie felt very legitimate, even though it was extremely silly. This movie also has that same kind of credibility where I'm like, okay, I might not know much about metal, but this feels very legitimate. It doesn't feel like they're just making shit up.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Someone
Yeah.
that's very passionate about this art form has made this movie.
I bought it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm on board.
Yeah, I used to listen to a lot of metal, and I used to know a lot of metal people, and I think this is right there. It hit it.
It's right up their alley.
Yeah.
Who coincidentally, all the people that we know that love metal probably also really love movies that have the same feel, like the Evil Dead feel or like the Dead Alive feel.
Yeah.
The super gory. I feel like those kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you can't have a band called Cattle Decapitation and then go and watch The Last Unicorn all the time.
Okay.
The Last Unicorn is amazing.
Okay, maybe you could.
Go fuck yourself. But no, kind of leaning on what you said about how it felt very organic, I felt like that was a great contributor to how this plot unfolded. Mm-hmm. And I was on board for that too. Like, I feel like they really took their time in explaining everything. So when things were happening, I didn't feel like it was coming out of nowhere. So I thought that was a huge plus because that's not something we get very often around here.
Yeah, no. It was very clear cut what
It
they
was
were
a
doing.
gift.
Yeah, for sure. What else we have?
The title card credit sequence in the beginning was great.
Oh, where they introduced the characters with those like sketches?
Kind of, but just in the beginning when it was like flashing all those metal pictures and then like the splat Deathgasm like title card pops up. I know we've talked many times about how no movies take the time to do that anymore, and it's just like a plain like black and white title card. It's boring. So I thought that was a cool touch and fit in with the rest of the movie perfectly.
For sure. Yeah, there were some very cartoony themes, some comic-y themes going through this, especially in the early stages of this movie. I think to help keep the pace up and keep you interested long enough to get involved with these people, so that the back end of the movie was a very easy watch to help to root for these guys.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I think the intro sequence, what I was talking about on top of that, with the it was like notepad paper, and every time a character got introduced, they got sketched out real quick, and their name got added, and then they got like the voiceover bio, like, this is so and so, he's the blah 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 blah,
Yeah.
and then the page would rip, and then there they would be.
That helped me remember who the characters were as well.
Oh, totally! It helped me remember names because I was like, wait, who's that guy? And I would think about that title screen, and I would be able to recall.
Because I'm an old folkster.
No, and that added like a quirky element to this, which also made this. Once again, it made this metal thing really accessible and borderline cutesy
Yeah.
for people.
It was super silly.
Which contributed to the comedy of something that is so almost like metal is heinous, right? It's brutal and it's vulgar.
He said brutal so many times. I was like, I love this guy.
Yeah, I mean, even I felt Death Clock had like Adult Swim vibes in this
Yeah,
too.
I was
yeah.
definitely feeling that.
Yeah, there was a lot of that going on as well.
For sure. I like... I don't know if it would be considered breaking the fourth wall, but I felt like it kind of did.
What?
Just at certain points, it felt very, like, obvious.
Well,
Like,
there was a part. Are we probably going to talk about the same thing?
when he, like, grabs the camera.
This is one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. Like, I don't know if that's considered
Like,
breaking the fourth wall,
it
but
is,
it kind
yeah.
of is
Yeah.
because it's acknowledging, like, the world outside of what is immediately happening.
Yeah.
But like this character Zakk is just so metal. Like he can change the point of view to himself as if it were a movie.
Yeah, they're discussing their band name and they're all throwing ideas out there. And then Zakk, who's kind of like, not really the leader. I guess he's kind of
he's definitely
like
the leader.
He's like the douchebag leader.
Yeah, he's the alpha metal guy.
Yeah. And he's like, how about Deathgasm? And then they're like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then the camera kind of pans over to Brodie and he's like, how about? And then Zakk like physically grabs the camera and puts it back on himself. And he's like, I said Deathgasm.
In all capitals, because lowercase is for pussies.
Yeah, that was awesome. I felt like in any other movie that would have been like too shticky and ridiculous, but it was
Yeah.
just perfect. Like
Yeah.
the mood of this movie was very consistent.
I agree. Yeah, no, and it totally fit. I didn't think, and it's funny. You're like, oh, that when they broke the fourth wall. I'm like, oh no, they didn't. What part? And then I was like, oh my god, no, they did, didn't they?
They grabbed the fourth wall.
They grabbed it and they moved it. So that was fun. Eric, what do you have for success? Anything? Anything else?
The special effects were fantastic.
Oh man,
Totally.
Both the CGI and the practical special effects came together and just made a great spectacle.
They complemented each other so well, which is exactly what you want. You want your practical effects to be enhanced by some of the CG that comes later. And I think on a lot of the possessed people in this movie, they had like, their eyes missing and they were, bloody faced and all that stuff. And there was practical effect on set to make them look fantastic. They looked great. And then they enhanced it in CG and it was exactly what you'd want. There was no part in this where I was like, ugh, God, that was so disgusting graphics.
Like bad CG.
Yeah, bad CG.
Like unbelievable.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
I mean, the whole thing was unbelievable, but in a good way. I wrote down scene transitions as a plus, and now I can't remember specifically what the fuck I wanted to say. So
I know exactly because one of my
I apologize.
One of my favorite parts is going to be one of these scene transitions. Well, let's talk about it now because you just brought it up. There was one. It was early in the movie. It said heavy metal up your butthole.
yes, that's exactly what I wrote it down.
And through the O in butthole, it then zoomed into our frame and our wide shot for the next bit. So I was like, oh my God, they just said heavy metal up your butthole to get us to this next scene. That was perfect.
I feel like there was something after that as well that I can't quite recall. So
there was a couple of cool moments.
Yeah.
That one in particular was definitely one of my favorites.
And this movie was genuinely funny. Like I laughed out loud a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't frequently enjoy comedies, but it's really got to be on point for me to enjoy it, and this was seriously a laugh a minute.
It was well written.
I'm glad that metal culture translated to New Zealand in the same way that it happens here. Like it's the same kind of kids, same kind of people who are into it.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I know them.
Yeah, I was like, I get it.
Like we hung out with these guys in high school.
Yeah.
I know who these people are. It makes perfect sense to me. Anything else before we want to touch on any failures?
I think I touched on all the major ones for myself.
Yeah, honestly, most of my notes is just favorite parts.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where favorite, like just these small, really endearing moments kept happening, and I really appreciated it. But do we have any failures?
My biggest gripe, honestly, is so stupid, and I feel like such an idiot. But a lot of the time when the demons were talking, the voice was so distorted that I couldn't understand what they were saying.
No, that happened.
And I feel like my fucking mom right now, because she's one of those people that's always like, I can never understand English accents or Irish accents or Scottish accents. And I have zero problem understanding any accents, including New Zealand. But just the distortion on the voice made it like really hard to understand for me.
Yeah.
Like probably 45% of the demon dialogue in this movie, I have no fucking idea what was being said.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you.
I don't know how much of it was plot critical.
Yeah,
some of it was pretty self-explanatory.
I don't know how important it was. Probably not very.
But we might have missed a couple of really good lines if
some
we didn't understand.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. At worst, it was a few crack up lines.
Yeah.
That was really the only thing I had, though.
I'd say one of the things that I thought was just slightly annoying was I felt like there were a lot of like boo-hoo moments for Brodie in our favorite character. A lot of like
he did get shit on.
He got shit on a lot, but like I'm like I get it. He's shit on. Like I don't need to. I don't know. I'm just picky.
We keep setting the plate for this character.
Yeah, exactly. There was a moment like an hour into the movie where they kept this like he's getting shit on vibe going, and I'm like, I don't need this right now. Like I get it. I thought they hit that point a little too hard.
I didn't really think that, but now that you mention it, I guess they kind of did, but I feel like maybe it was necessary to illustrate to us what pushed him to play the song knowing that it was going to like summon demons, because he did it intentionally. And I know I mentioned like Dead Alive and Evil Dead earlier, and all like the outbreaks and all the chaos that ensues in both of those movies is kind of like accidental. Nobody means it. So I thought that was an interesting take on this one, that he did it intentionally and now he has to like try to stop it.
Yeah, no, I buy that. I guess that makes sense. I mean, I'm really just nitpicking. I am.
No, I mean they did pile it on. He was shit on, for sure.
So I decided to say that. Eric, do you have anything?
My only real gripe is I don't necessarily understand the need for the antagonists in this movie, because I feel like the antagonists keep killing each other, and eventually they're all they don't get much screen time. We don't really follow them too much, so we don't know their motivations other than the fact that they're occultists.
Yes.
Yeah, they were kind of lame.
Yeah, it almost feels like this movie might be improved without the antagonists, and it's just, well, there are demons here now, and the antagonists are really just the demons themselves.
Yeah.
The cultists felt like another third party that weren't necessary.
Yeah, they were not necessary whatsoever.
They were like the boss level, but they weren't boss at all.
Yeah.
They're a mini boss.
It was like, he's going to fight these demons, going to fight his like aunt and uncle demon, and then the boss level, which was pretty easy, and one person pretty much took out everybody.
Yeah. Like, they all took each other out. I didn't really understand the need for them to be there.
They were killing themselves a lot. I mean, and that was also a fantastic scene.
I suppose it's in character, but I still don't see the point.
Yeah. I mean, that's a nitpick.
They didn't detract from the movie that much.
No, and considering the movie, I mean, this was an hour and 26 minutes.
And it was a tight hour and 26.
It moved very quickly. I mean, we're saying that these kind of, they went a little farther. I mean, ultimately, I think this would have been, minutes of actual time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they crammed a lot into their runtime.
Exactly.
I felt like a lot happened. By like the 40-minute mark, I was like, holy shit, so much has happened already.
Real high energy. Very pacey.
Kept it. I liked it.
Yeah, same. All right, so with that, I guess let's move on to favorite parts then. Who would like to begin?
So many.
There's so many good, fun,
like everything.
genuine moments.
When Brodie and Zakk first became friends, and it was like showing the stuff that they do together, and they're mixing that like I don't know if it was like gas. I forget what he said it was.
They were mixing some sort
napalm.
of yeah.
Basically, yeah. And then they like lit somebody's field on fire, and it said "Hail Satan," but Satan was spelled wrong, and it said "Hail Satin." I thought that was pretty funny. When we're seeing the boss guy, I think his name was Eon.
Was that like the head of
the occultist?
Yes.
When his like lackey was like sobbing and begging for his life, and those two hooded guys came out behind him and beheaded him and got blood all over his expensive carpet. And he was like, "Do it again! Put a tarp down!" So like they drag a tarp out and like sit the guy's head on his decapitated shoulders, and then like pretend to cut his head off again. And then the guy's like, "Okay, that's better."
I love the confusion that the hooded gentleman had.
It was like so well done through their body language.
Oh yeah, and like the confusion he had, and like the grasping for approval afterwards.
Like
was
looking
that right?
up at him, like,
was that it? Did I do it right? He's like, okay, good, that's good.
Yeah, I love just like the complete absurdist parts like that were peppered through this movie.
Yeah, for sure. Eric, what do you have?
Man, I have a lot of stuff listed. We already went over Zakk breaking the fourth wall. This movie had a lot of 80s electricities effects. And I feel like we don't see that very often anymore. And I kind of miss that effect. I feel like that was in a lot of cheap sci-fi from the 80s. It was a lot of fun to see. And we don't see it anymore. And I don't know why. That's like the one CG effect we should still have.
Yeah, because that one, probably you can make it look pretty good pretty easy.
It looked great in this movie.
Yeah, they did a good job with it. No, that's funny.
It was
I
used
like
a lot, but I get like it had a point.
Yeah.
So I don't mind that.
Definitely not. I think one of my favorite parts was his cousin's death scene.
That was also one of my
which was fantastic. So the character of his cousin, so he moved in with his aunt and uncle, and he was this metal kid, and his cousin was like the school bully. He was like a big jerk and always made fun of him for liking metal. And then he took interest in his cousin's girlfriend, and they were hanging out, and so his cousin got like, really uptight and insecure about it, jealous. And then he kind of disappears for a little bit, and we get this whole big fight go down with the aunt and his uncle getting possessed, and he has to like kill them, go through them. And it's Brodie and Zakk, and they just did all this hard work, and they're sitting in the living room, and all of a sudden the cousin walks in, and he's perfectly human, perfectly fine. And he goes, "What the fuck? What's going on?" And Brodie just gets up with a chainsaw and like cuts his head off. And he's like, "Whoa, whew."
Sits back down like, oh, thank God.
Zakk was like, "What?" He was totally fine. You know that, right? He's like, "What?"
Pretty sure he wasn't possessed.
Said something about Satan.
Yeah, he came in here talking about Satan. You didn't hear him say that? Like,
I loved the fact that he just killed his cousin for being a dickhead.
yeah, like he took this opportunity to do that, and it was such a casual comedic moment, executed so well by these guys.
Yeah.
That was definitely
His New Zealand accent really made me laugh when he was like, I'm pretty sure he's not possessed.
yeah, great timing on those guys.
Yeah, that cracked me up. The dildo and anal bead weaponry in this movie
my
was
God.
out of control. When they're battling the aunt and uncle, they discover all these like kinky sex toys in the closet, which is hilarious and
Because they're
quite
hyper
the-
religious.
Quite the commentary on like religious zealots. So I thought that was funny. People are getting impaled through the head with dildos, and it was hilarious. It was like waving the anal beads around his head like it was a mace or something. It was just fucking out of control. The devil music was awesome.
Yep.
I don't know if that was written specifically for this movie, but I'm assuming that it was.
I would hope so, because I hope they wouldn't really play the black hymn like that. That's dangerous.
One of my favorite things was when they were shooting their little music video, and Giles, the fat nerd guy, just comes out with Peter Criss face paint, which I thought was hysterical.
With like crooked ass whiskers, there's like diagonal lines across his face. That was really good.
Those two side characters were fantastic.
Oh, I
the
love
two
them.
nerdy double D D&D guys. Yeah, those guys were,
Yeah,
were
every time there was like a little joke about like the tabletop game they were playing, I just got like a laugh out of it.
yeah.
Like they bust into the school and that guy's just like, well, you're in like the Wizard Citadel, so I was like, oh, you idiot.
I felt like those characters were like my connection to this movie too, because in high school I was friends with a lot of metalheads, but I wasn't really a metalhead guy, so I was just that nerd that hung out with them.
Yeah.
So I felt like I could really relate to those guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably exactly what they were going
That's
for. Well, because they know
helps
those
me get into the movie.
Well, and those kinds of cliques, I think they walk, on the same path.
Yeah.
It's those nerdy kids just happen to be nerdy about one thing, not the other.
I did really also like everything that happened when they were playing the Black Hymn. Like everyone in the vicinity would just be like barfing up blood.
Yeah.
And then when the teacher was kind of turning into a demon, he was like like farting blood and like
Shitting
puking
blood.
blood all over his students.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
That was
loved
awesome. Like that whole scene where like I felt like it happened to like the adults. I didn't think it happened to like the kids. I don't know if that
question.
was. I don't know
I
if that
don't-
was like intentional.
Yeah.
I don't recall any kids like
There was
teenagers.
the one kid in the bathroom, which I don't know if it was the cousin's friend. At first, I thought it was the
It
cousin.
was.
The kid with the heart-shaped glasses. Because that gimmick was so funny. How he was... I honestly didn't understand a fucking word he said. Like I mentioned. But when he like slid out of frame and then like slid back in and made like one last comment and then like floated away. I was like, oh, that's like the perfect amount of camp
Yeah.
and cheese.
I liked how they all wore sunglasses too. I think to just cover their eye holes or whatever. And his just happened to be like in the shapes of hearts. Just so funny. Just that little comedic touch that this movie had very consistently throughout.
Yeah, there's a lot of little nuanced like comedic things that I noticed as well. Like when when they got to the aunt and uncle's house and Zakk was just drinking his beer and Brodie was getting attacked and he was like, oh shit, and he like looked at the beer and then like chugged the rest of it before like hitting the demon with the bottle. I was like, it was such like a small joke, like him finishing the beer before he hit him with it.
Yeah, you can miss it in 2 seconds, but if
Yeah.
you're watching it, you get,
I
you
always
get to pay
really
back.
appreciate like attention to minute detail like that.
For sure. Anything else we'd like to cover before we move on to ratings?
Very early on in the movie when we're kind of seeing how Brodie feels in his head when he listens to metal. Like we're getting inside of his head and we
That was
understand
Oh, yeah.
how this music makes him feel and how it makes him feel empowered. And it's just like a shot of him on top of like a mountain and he's being pawed at by like a bikini, like a chainmail bikini babe. And he's just like rocking out on his guitar. and he eye lasers her bikini off, and then he just starts rocking out harder, which that alone was great. But then we also get a follow-up later after he gives Medina some of his metal CDs, and she puts one on, and all of a sudden she's transported to the same place, and she's being caught up by chainmail bikini babes, and she's just got like this giant axe, and she's like swinging it around her head.
I loved those. I thought that was awesome.
It was a really great way to just transfer, like, if you're a metalhead and you listen to metal, like, this is how we feel.
Yeah.
Like, I can relate to that. You know, when I listen to certain things, it makes me feel fucking like in a certain way.
When I listen to like 3 inches of blood, I'm like, I'm galloping across an open field into battle right now.
Oh my god, yeah. Anything that the sword does is like perfect. It's metal can be great. That's why I love metal so much, because like the good metal is like the best stuff, but the rest of it is just awful.
Yeah,
it's
I'm
like
just
horror
not into like
movies.
listening to people cough into a microphone for 4 minutes. That type of metal just isn't my personal style.
Oh, if it's got a good mood, I'm all in. I don't care what anyone's saying. I just want it to. I just want
the right vibe.
Exactly. I want the right mood. That's all.
I was reading an article on Bloody Disgusting. There was like an interview with the director, and he was saying how some of his favorite lyrics are Cannibal Corpse, Hammer Smash Face.
Oh yeah.
And I thought it was so funny because there was a Hammer Smash Face death in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
I just thought that was worth a mention.
Definitely.
I was like, also, I have to just give a shout out to that barbed wire weed whacker
Oh yeah.
because that was fucking awesome.
Shout out to the barbed wire weed whacker.
Oh, yeah, that whacked some dude's dick off.
Oh yeah, that was that was gross. That was good though.
Yeah, I think that's about it.
I'm ready to rate.
I'm ready to rat it.
Yeah, I'm ready to rat it.
So let's rate it then.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with
Yeah,
fuck
I'm gonna
you.
have to give it an unfortunate fuck off.
Oh my god, my fucking father.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
All right, let's rate Deathgasm, 2015 horror comedy, guys. Where do we want to start? Who wants to rate? Brittany?
I'm just gonna give it a fuck yeah, because I had a great time watching it. I thought it was funny. It was well written. It was super gory. It was tongue in cheek and campy in like the perfect ways. I just like every aspect of it. I was very pleased with. It was like beyond competent filmmaking, which is like the only thing we pray for when we do this podcast.
Oh yeah.
Really, please let it be competent.
Take an absurd
So-
subject and drive it with competence.
Yeah, exactly. And not very often do you get something that's just like deftly made that is fucking awesome. Like I would recommend this to anybody.
Yeah.
That's a horror fan or a metal fan. Oh, and I did want to mention that Giles was wearing a Bad Taste shirt.
Oh, that was
nice little nod to Peter Jackson there.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure. Eric, what do you give it?
Fuck yeah.
All right.
As you can tell, I know a lot about metal. Just the excellent effects. Plot line that was simple but had great motivation behind it. The acting was pretty solid for a horror movie of this caliber. It just put me in the same mindset as like, you know, Evil Dead, Bad Taste, all the Cornetto trilogy. Like I had that kind of vibe going for it. Like I could easily see Simon Pegg and Nick Frost playing these two characters when they were younger, or hell now. Like that would be pretty funny too.
Also,
These characters grown up. Yes.
I thought of Pick of Destiny so many times watching.
Yep. Dude, I thought of Tenacious D too.
And I mean, I think it really speaks to this movie that like I don't really have an investment in metal, and it was still very relevant to me, and it was very funny. Like I don't have to know anything about metal to understand the jokes in this.
Yeah.
It's self-referential in a way that I can understand. I could be in on the joke instead of being the outsider saying, "Oh, what's going on?" So I can really appreciate that.
For sure. For sure.
Oh man, the poison.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
When Brodie first meets Zakk, it's in a record shop, and they're both like pulling out vinyls and then like discreetly looking over and looking at the like vinyl that the other person is looking at.
Judging them.
Yeah, and judging them based on it. And Zakk just looks over, and Brodie like absentmindedly pulled one out of the stack, and it was just a Poison album. And they were both like, "Oh, what the fuck!" And we all got a laugh out of that. Tom, what do you rat it?
I'll give it. I'm feeling a little peer pressure, so I'm going to give it a fuck yeah.
I don't feel
I was already going to give
Don't
it.
feel peep a poop pop.
Don't
poop, poop.
feel papa. Give it what you want. I won't. Do what you feel in your heart.
I was going to give it a really high score, anyway, but I might as well give it a fuck yeah to give it the fucking sweep, because I feel like I stopped Kindred from getting a fucking sweep with a fuck yes, and I think that's baloney. I think I'm going to give it a fucking sweep anyway. And I don't want to let that happen again because I kind of regretted it.
Yeah.
So,
We all have our regrets on
Are you
second class cinema.
retrograding the Kindred a fuck yeah and giving this a fuck yeah as well?
as I mean subtracting an S and adding an AH onto my grade, yes.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
will do that. Yes,
I support
am.
that. I feel like this movie deserves it.
And I will give this a fuck yeah as well, because this is like if this movie came out while I was in the peak love of metal that I had, which I was probably about 18,
It might be your favorite movie of all time.
19, it would so be one of my favorite movies. Like, this is such a I want to put this on every single night kind of movie.
Yeah.
If I was the right age for it.
I'm kind of glad we didn't buy it because I want to get it on Blu-ray and watch it all the time.
Yeah, that's good. I would definitely recommend. I would recommend this to anybody looking for a good horror movie to watch, or anyone that's like into metal. Just be like, watch this movie. They make a lot of good references you'll appreciate, and it's like gory as shit, and everyone who loves metal loves that.
Yeah.
So
Obviously.
exactly, it's a blanket statement, but it's true.
Stereotyping.
But yeah, so fuck yeah, fucking sweep for Deathgasm.
Deathgasm swept it.
Awesome, that was a good job.
Yeah, that was a good watch. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts on this bad boy?
Always just makes me happy to see any representation of a subculture in a movie that just feels like there's some credibility behind it. Like that, something about that always makes me happy, even if it's not something that I'm involved with necessarily.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It feels like someone's really captured what the subculture is about and put all their feelings into it and put it on the screen and made it work.
Mm-hmm. And it gives us a glimpse into that, even though that might not necessarily be where we're from.
Definitely.
I think that's maybe one of the biggest strengths of filmmaking is when you can manage to capture something like that and explain it to someone that maybe doesn't know it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the hardest part. Really is.
Yeah, well, the writer and the director were the same person.
Yeah, and
I feel like this guy just loves metal.
he does. He has to in order to make this. But this guy has a history in visual effects and some really big blockbuster movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he's worked on The Avengers. He's worked on like The Great Gatsby.
Jason Lee Howden.
He's done some really cool.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit visual effects work.
Nice.
So that's why this movie probably had such a strength in its visual effects. That's probably where he's coming from. That's probably where it lies.
Oh, wow. Wolverine, Man of Steel. Yeah.
Yeah, some good stuff.
And guys like that should be making horror. I mean, horror is half spectacle, really.
Oh, yeah.
Probably more so.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think like it had the right amount of story for me to be involved in our characters and watch them do exactly what they've set themselves up to do, which is make this really over-the-top, gory, possessed thing. And so I was enjoying it on multiple levels.
Agreed. I always appreciate when like story isn't forsaken for visuals and vice versa. It's always a pleasant surprise.
Definitely. All right, that's it, guys. We did well. We watched we watched Deathgasm.
Go us.
We watched Deathgasm for 2015, and it got a fucking sweep, which was pretty awesome.
It was good. It was great. Yeah.
All right, let's start a death metal band. We can do that, right?
Dumbgasm.
Dumbogasm. Oh no, it'd be Ratgasm.
Guy's
Second
a
class
total
cannibal.
metal Dumbo.
Second class cannibal. I'm in it. Send us your best death metal names for us. If you'd like more information, visit Facebook, facebook.com/secondclasscinema. If you'd like to listen to our podcast, you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, secondclasscinema.com, and followingfilms.com. That's it.
Good night.